All right, well, welcome everyone. My name is Stephanie and I'm a librarian at Lincoln Library. We're very excited to have Melinda McDonald for our Behind the Book series with her new book, Dot's War. And we will go over, or she will go over what the book is about and her research on the Ordnance Plant and Springfield. So thank you, Melinda, for being with us. And go ahead and get started and I will advance the slides.
Okay. Thank you, Stephanie, and thank everybody for attending tonight. I'm Melinda McDonald. I'm the author of Dot's War, and I'm going to tell you a little about how I came to write it. During the presentation, I'll be talking about the Ordnance Plant, Sangamon Ordnance Plant, World War II, Springfield, and a little bit about myself. Next slide, please. So what is the book about? What is Dot's War about? Well, it's about the adventures of Dot, a young divorced woman who worked in the Sangamon Ordnance Plant during World War II. It's also about immigrants and discrimination that they faced in Springfield and other places during that time. Now, this book is a work of historical fiction, which means the main characters are made up. They're totally fictitious. The character of Dot is not a real person. However, the events and places that were real at that time period are true, or what really happened. And for me, I like historical fiction because it's a entertaining way to learn about history. So I enjoy that. Next slide, please. Who am I? Why would I consider myself able to write a book? Well, first of all, I've always thought of myself as a writer because I love to read, and I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate to that. I earned a journalism degree from Iowa State University. And after that, I was a reporter for newspapers in Iowa. I've also served in the course of my career as public information, public relations, and in marketing jobs in Iowa and Illinois. My last job, which I have to say was my favorite job, was at Benomatic here in Springfield. And so I do have some experience in writing, but it's a lot. Now, how I came to write Dot's War, well, I've written a book before about in 2008, so a little more than 10 years ago. I published Water and Fire, and this book also is historical fiction, and it concerns the 1908 race riots that took place in Springfield. And this I published to coincide with the 100th anniversary of the race riots. Now, at the time, my husband and I were working as volunteer tour guides at the Dana Thomas House, the Frank Lloyd Wright designed house here in Springfield that some of you may be familiar with. And a lot of the action in the novel is in the Dana Thomas house. The protagonist is a young Black woman that worked as a servant in the house. This book was really well received. I got to speak to several organizations, reading groups. I got to do book signings and speak at the Presidential Library. Book sold over 500 copies, and I have to give a lot of credit to the Dana Thomas House, because they carried the book in their gift shop and were a great source of sales for me. Next slide, please. Now, Sangamon Ordnance Plant. I developed a real fascination with that plant. About the same time as the previous book was published. This plant was near Illiopolis, which is west or east of here. And driving to Decatur along the highway, if you just before you get to the Illiopolis exit, you will begin to see different ruins of something. I didn't know what it was. It turned out it was the Sangamon Ordnance Plant. Here you can see some pictures of some of the ruins that were taken by, the top picture was taken by my husband, and we took several pictures of the ruins there. It was a very interesting day, and I don't know how many of the ruins even still exist. These were taken about maybe five or 6 years ago. But this was another contributor to me being very, very interested in writing a book. Next slide, please. Now, I got what I thought of as a sign, because after the first book publication, in 2008, my husband's grandfather's second wife, whose name was Twyla, called me, and she had seen an article in a local magazine about my book and wanted me to stop by and tell her more. And so my husband's grandfather had passed away at that time, and I went over to her house about once a week over my lunch hour to talk with her and record her talking about growing up, and life was quite a bit different back then. So I thought it was fascinating. Well, in the course of her talking, she talked about how she had served as, she had worked at the Sangamon Ordnance Plant during World War II. And you can see on the far left is a picture of her and my husband's grandfather. In the center is a picture of her, Twyla, as part of the work group that she was in. And I found this picture when I went to the Sangamon Valley collection at the library. And lo and behold, there she was. And anyway, that sealed the deal for me. I thought, oh, to have somebody who had actually worked there, that was pretty cool. That is her picture on the right. She was a very attractive woman. And I used that as a cover of the book. I hasten to add that this book is not about her. She had her own life, but she was my inspiration. Next slide, please. I started doing research on that time period, and quickly discovered that even though women were indeed coming into the workforce in record numbers, there was a lot of discrimination against them. Women hadn't worked outside the home in the past, and this was a really different role for them. As a result, they earned lower wages for similar work. For example, the weekly wage in 1944 for women, this is a weekly wage, $31, whereas men earned $54 doing the same work. So there was discrimination at the Sangamon Ordnance Plant. This manifested itself as the women did a lot of the line work, the assembly, the lower paying jobs. The men had all the administrative jobs and managerial, well, upper management jobs. In the lower right-hand corner of this slide, you can see a cartoon of it was in an ad showing two women working at looks like an ordnance plant, and they were talking about a co-worker's smooth hands, which is a kind of a demeaning way to look at women. But that was the way it was back then, I guess. Next slide, please. Women workers during World War II had some interesting observations on what they were doing. Quote that I thought really distilled this idea from a woman named Deli Hahn, who had worked as a nurse for the Red Cross during the war. She said, I think a lot of women had a taste of freedom. They had a taste of making their own money. I'm sorry, a taste of spending their own money. I think the beginning of the women's movement had its seeds right there in World War II. And that was probably true. And after the war, the women were expected to quit their jobs and go back into the home and free up jobs for the men. That was kind of the old school way they thought. On the right of the slide, you have a large ad that ran, I believe, in the Journal Register. Look in that this was the Ordnance Plant company. Remington Rand owned the company, owned the plant, and trying to get women to come out and get jobs there. So they were actively soliciting women, they were providing childcare and bunch of things to try and lure them into work. Next slide, please. When I went to research Sangamon Ordnance Plant, I found a host of really good resources. A little bit about the plant. There were 1,000 buildings, so it was very large. And from 1942 to 45, it produced 20 million shells per year. 65% of the employees at the plant were women. Then there were 10,000 workers, so that's a lot of women workers. One resource that I found to be excellent, and which you can see a cover page on the upper left of this slide, is there are a number of oral histories that are cataloged at UIS now. And oral histories are when an older person was interviewed about their life and their interactions. A lot of these oral histories had the people recounting working at the Sangamon Ordnance Plant. And you don't want to go to those for factual details because, it was a long time ago for a lot of these people. But they're really good resource to show the feeling of the time, what it was like to be alive back then. All of these oral histories are online at the UIS website, and I would encourage you to go explore them because they're well indexed and referenced. And again, they are a real source of information. Also, a wonderful source of information is the Sangamon Link website, which is managed and funded by the Sangamon County Historical Society and expertly written and researched by Mike Kinsler. And so I would encourage you to look for that on the World Wide Web. The URL is SangamonCountyHistory.org. Let's see, something else that was a resource, a great resource, was in the Illiopolis Library. It's low tag. It's scrapbooks of information about the plant, and very interesting pictures of what Illiopolis was like during World War II. There were many of the plant workers wanted to find a place to live in Illiopolis, and Illiopolis is not a large town. They didn't have a lot of boarding houses and resources. So private citizens were renting out bedrooms. There were trailers on people's lawn. It went from a small, quiet town to a larger, very lively place. No. Then down in the lower right-hand corner is a picture of that I found on eBay. It's a badge that one of the workers wore when they were working at the plant. You wouldn't be allowed to come into the plant unless you had your picture badge on. There was a lot of secrecy, obviously necessary secrecy, surrounding the plant because they're making bombs to the war after all. And so finally, the last picture on the page is of the can you never mind. The Victory Special, it was called, and this is showing 11 passenger car. No, I'm sorry. This is showing the inside of one of the cars. The special itself had 11 passenger cars and could hold 500 riders. And it was pulled by a red, white, and blue locomotive. So it left Springfield Station on Clear Lake Avenue at 7:45 a.m. on November 28, 1942. That was its first run. This was very helpful, I'm sure, for people that worked at the plant. Next slide, please. Okay, so after researching the Sangamon Ordnance Plant, I was ready to, I decided to have my protagonist boarding with some immigrants from Japan. And I had found out through the Springfield Journal Register, there was an article that said there was one Japanese family who lived in Springfield during World War II. And there was a lot of anti-Japanese sentiment around at the time. And I was kind of surprised, but there's a picture of the family, the Takaharas, at the upper left. The family I have in the book is inspired by the Takaharas, but again, it's not them. So that was very interesting. I learned a lot about Japan when I was writing the book. I learned about its cuisine at the upper right. I learned about Buddhism at the lower left, and also about Japanese picture brides, a picture of which you see at the lower right. These were similar to our version of mailer brides. So it was very interesting. Next slide, please. The protagonist falls in love with a German man, another worker at the plant. And you see a picture at the lower left of a handsome young German man. It could be that the character, it could be someone else. The two pictures, one at the upper left, one at the lower right, are of the church that used to stand in the near north side of Springfield. And most of the German Catholic immigrants went to church there. It was called Saints Peter and Paul Church. And it has since been torn down. I also learned about German cuisine, as you can see in the upper right-hand picture. So I learned a lot writing this book, and it was easy to just get fascinated by the research. But I had to quit and write eventually. Next slide, please. Finally, there's one character in the book who is a Jewish woman. And there was discrimination against Jewish people at this time in our history. Jewish people had been here for a little bit longer than some of the other immigrants. But again, they were very much discriminated against. Let's see. On the left-hand part of the slide, you can see a Jewish wedding, a couple dressed up for their wedding. And I did some research on that. Their weddings are very interesting. And I have one in the book. On the right-hand side, upper right, you see a picture of one of the synagogues in Springfield. I think it's Temple Berith, I believe. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. In the lower right, you can see some Jewish cookies that I found through some research. So it was very nice, especially much of this research is available on the web. And that is a wonderful resource, particularly for people that are not extremely mobile. Next, oh, you've got the next slide up. Okay, some other research I did was at the left-hand part of the slide, you can see Myers Brothers. Well, I became fascinated with that because this is just such an odd coincidence. But a few years ago, I saw Dr. James Myers, who has an office in this building, and he's a therapist, and he was descended from some of the original Myers brothers, who I didn't realize they were very prominent in the Jewish community. And despite their wealth, they were banned from membership in some of the lake clubs, because at the time, they would not allow Jewish people in. So I remember going to a function there in the 80s, and I was told that Jewish people weren't allowed. I've heard that this custom has been abandoned, and I'm very happy about that. You can see on the upper right a picture of little orphan Annie and her dog Sandy. There is a dog in the book named Sandy, and he resembles little orphan Annie's dog. So I wanted to make sure to get that right. So I Googled orphan Annie, and Sandy's picture popped up. To the lower right, you see a really kind of disgusting example of discrimination in a war bond poster. The character on the right is supposed to represent Japanese man, and he's very much of a caricature. This kind of thing was rampant at that time. But it's really sad because a lot of Japanese people had immigrated. They've been here for several generations, and so it's sad to see them demonized so much. Next slide, please. Okay, so I did my research and I couldn't put it off any longer. It was time for me to write. Well, the way I approach large projects, and I'm sure some of you do the same thing, was try and break it down, because otherwise it's way too intimidating to say, and now I have to write a whole book. Oh my gosh. So beginning in February 2016, I decided that the target completion date for my book would be November 30th of that year. Well, it actually was completed, at least the first draft, in February of the next year, but it wasn't really far off. My target pages were 300. I ended up with 237, so a little bit less than that. 300 words per page. I got this by looking at various books. Ended up, there were 237 words on each page of my draft. 90,000 words was the target I set. And I ended up with about 87,000 words. So in the ballpark. 9 months of writing equals 10,000 words per month. You know, that's an easy one. That breaks down to 2,500 words per week and 2 hours of writing time per day. So at the end of this process, I've got 360 words I needed to write each day. Well, that sounded manageable to me. And I would sit down, I put it on my calendar and allowed a couple hours every day to write. And I didn't always keep with the schedule, but pretty much I did. So that was a way to get it done. Next slide, please. I've always thought of myself as a writer, and a writer is a person who writes or is able to write. I was diagnosed with primary progressive multiple sclerosis in 2005, and I am somewhat, I would say I'm very disabled. I can't use my hands to type. But there is speech recognition software now through the wonders of technology that will allow me to dictate the words that I need, and then I need to go over and correct them, because you know how autocorrect is, it's not good. But that's very nice. I have limited mobility. I'm confined to a power chair. And this makes me, well, it could make me pretty immovable, but thanks to the internet and research and email research, I was able to get quite a bit of information without moving around that much. For the past 5 years, I've lived in assisted living and later in a nursing home. I'm currently living at St. Joseph's Home here in Springfield. Some people would see this as a negative, but on the other hand, it is in some ways. But on the other hand, it gives me access to people who had actually lived through this time period. The older people have a great wealth of knowledge. It can be, I mean, they like to talk about the old days and what it was like. So there were pros and cons, as there are with everything in life. But after weighing all the pros and cons, I decided to give it a go. And on the another advantage, I have plenty of time. Next slide, please. Finally, I decided to self-publish. That means I do not go to a traditional publisher or book publisher, but I use one of the resources to get the book printed and sent out. Luckily, there are many, many resources now on the web for self-publishing. A lot of people are going this route. I chose it because it's low cost, it's about $3 a book is where you pay. Maybe a little bit more if you have a lot of pictures, which I don't. But you can print only what you need when you need them. So for instance, the self-publisher I use is connected with Amazon. So when you go and say, oh, I want to buy a book by Dots War, then they will print that one off. I don't know how they do it, but it's a going concern, and send it to you. So that gets rid of, in the old days, you used to have to print up 1,000 of your books and keep them in your basement and for years and years, and that's no fun. So, and plus, now that I'm in a nursing home, I would have no place to store the books. So that's a real plus. The book could remain in print forever. I still have my previous book for sale on Amazon. Nobody buys it, but it's for sale. So with the traditional publisher, if your book did not sell well, you would probably take it out of print and you'd see it on the remainder rack at Barnes and Noble or whatever. So you can, I can update and correct my book and upload a new file whenever I want to. So say I decide I find typos or something else. I mean, I wouldn't want to do a major revision, but I guess I could. But I would have to revise the file and upload it myself. And again, like I said earlier, my resource for self-publishing, which is called Kindle Direct Publishing, allows for a listing on Amazon. Well, that's a really good resource. I think that, if you go out and look now, you can see my book out there. And that way anybody anywhere across the globe who can get Amazon can order my book. So I like that. On the few negatives about self-publishing, the big one is you have to act as your own writer, editor, graphic designer, proofreader, and marketer. You do everything. And it's kind of daunting. You can hire an artist if you would prefer, but then you have to spend money. So if you don't want to, and frankly, I don't think you really need a designer to lay out a simple book. I think there are resources, you can do it yourself. But it's a lot of work. You must have a sales channel determined before you publish if you hope to sell copies to someone other than your friends and family. That's a big one. I mean, you'd think that after you've done all this work, writing and researching and writing and et cetera, then you have to format the book and upload it. But having a sales channel is very important because you've got to have a way to sell the book. So you at least need one source of marketing, like you have to place it in a store or put it on Amazon or some way for people to buy it. So next slide, please. Okay, well, I've told you everything I experienced. I really enjoyed writing this book. You want to read it? Well, it's like I say, available on Amazon for $10. That's your deal. Or an ebook. For instance, if you have an e-reader like I do, you can buy the ebook for, I think it's about $4. It's also in the circulating collection at Lincoln Library if you'd like to borrow it. Next slide, please. Okay, and I'll turn it back over to Stephanie. Are there any questions?
Thank you so much, Melinda. We do have a few questions and then we will open it and comments, and then we will open it up to everyone else. Jan says, thank you for sharing the process you used to proceed, challenging yourself to a certain number of pages and target delivery date. Joan asked, what are the challenges of writing a book using your voice?
Oh, using your voice. Well, as you know, or maybe not, if you write it from the first person standpoint, you're limited to one person's point of view. So you can't know what's going on in another state or in another location or in the past, or, well, I guess you could know your own past, but it's limiting. I think there are pros and cons to using first person perspective or voice. A second person, which would what be? Oh, well, I can't remember my people, but anyway, you can use different, it's kind of nice to use a omniscient voice, which is, you know everything, you're like God or something. But I don't know if that's the answer you wanted. I mean, it can be very appropriate. It does help build empathy for the narrator, I think. And it also can be very interesting way to present information, especially if you have an unreliable narrator, someone that, we ended up not maybe telling you the truth. So I guess that's my long-winded answer.
Okay. They also said access to people who lived through the period. What a great way to make lemonade from lemons. What a great lemonade from lemons attitude. Really admire your words per day targeting. Since the US was also war at Germany and German immigrants were keeping a low profile culturally and linguistically, did you consider having your German-born love interest suffer anti-German slurs or discrimination?
So I guess, I'm sorry, I was trying, my audio is not working very well. I think the question was, did you consider having your German-born characters
Get racial slurs?
get racial slurs? Yes. In fact, I'm sure they did. I can't remember. I don't think I showed that in the book, but yes, they did. They were discriminated against as well.
Okay, and then the next one, Joan asked, explain how much money you get from each book you sell.
Oh, well, you can decide. I'm not really in this to make money because I don't think I will, but you set the price for the book. So I could have set it at $100, if I wanted to. And since the book only cost me $3 to print, then I would get 97 bucks out of it, which would be a great profit, but I can't believe I'd have too many sales that way. I think, I remember when I had my previous book and it was for sale at retail, I sold it to the gift shop at 100% markup for me. So if I had it cost me $3 to get printed, then I could sell it to them for $6 each. They could then turn around and mark it up another 100%, which is typical for retail, and sell it at $12, which is about standard for most books. Again, you can set your own price.
Okay. I had another person ask about the earlier question about voice. They may have meant the challenges of dictating a book instead of typing it.
Oh, I see. Yes, I misunderstood. Well, before I quit work, I was using this method to write. The company had purchased a voice recognition software for me, so I'd been using it. So I'm used to writing this way. It has its challenges. Previously, I mentioned the problems with autocorrect, but sometimes this transcriptions, I'm like, where in the world did you get that word? You know, I did not say anything close to that. But I would say it's probably slower than typing, but it's better than nothing. It's certainly better than not writing, I think. And I believe that technology is making it possible to do a number of things through voice recognition. The whole Alexa phenomenon, where you just ask her to, tell you something, is kind of, to me, a voice recognition thing. Does that provide an answer to your question?
Yeah, they asked, how do you correct recognition software mistakes?
Well, what I do is I highlight the words, say that I had the word, I wanted the word question, and it had written board or something like that. I could highlight that word and then say it. My computer right now has a speech recognition function that I can turn on through the control panel. So I don't even have to buy software anymore. I hit the microphone to turn that on. I say the correct word, which would be questions. And it'll give me a list of alternatives, like a whole list of words that it could be. And I find the word question on that list, check it and say, okay, and it replaces it. So it's somewhat cumbersome, but not impossible.
Great. There was a question for me about Biblioboard. I've heard of Biblioboard. We do not have Biblioboard, I believe, and I don't know if there are any plans, but I could bring it up to some of our staff and see if there's any interest in it. Thank you so much for contributing that. Oh, Joan wants to know, what is your next book about?
Oh, well, I don't have a next book figured out yet, but I appreciate your confidence in me. I don't know. I feel like maybe I need to take a rest. What I was actually thinking about was maybe writing something a little different, like short stories, because a book is a multi-year proposition, and it, frankly, even if you break it down, it's a little bit daunting. So no ideas yet. If you have any, send them my way.
Well, someone would said about what about a sequel to Dot's War?
Oh, well, nothing is impossible. I
Continuing her
haven't thought
story.
about it yet, but here's an idea.
Someone said, have you experienced writer's block? And if so, how did you break through it?
Wow. Yeah, I think everybody experiences writer's block. And well, it's just discipline. I think it's really hard, but sometimes when you feel like you have nothing to say, just sit down and write whatever you can. I think you can take your book and you can delete portions of it or rewrite it or whatever you need to do. You're the author. But I think the fact that you can just try to write through, and you might write a bunch of garbage, but at least you've written something.
All right, do we have any more questions? You can write them in the chat or feel free to unmute yourself. Okay, Katie says, what books have influenced you?
Oh, well, let's see. It used to be, I really enjoy historical fiction. I very taken with the works of E.L. Doctorow, and particularly his classic Ragtime. That was a fantastic book. I'm in a book group, as I'm sure many of you are. Some of the books we've read in book group have really, they're some of my favorites that I've really gotten into. George Saunders' books, particularly Lincoln in the Bardo, which is, well, I guess his latest book probably. I like some of the classics. I really enjoy things like, I enjoyed Moby Dick, if you can believe that. Books are classics for a reason. They are good, and they stretch across the time period, the millennia. So I'm sure there's a bunch of other ones, but those are the ones that come to mind.
Oh, they also wrote, do you have a favorite historical period?
Oh, do I? I don't know. I like the turn of the century stuff. I tended to like Victorian era things. I guess it's all over the place. I don't have a favorite or non-favorite that I can think of.
Okay, Jan says, thanks for introducing me to Marilyn Robinson's books.
Oh, yeah.
Marilyn says, are there any of your characters closely drawn from real people in your life?
Trying to think. Not really. I mean, I can't think of anybody I was thinking about when I was writing the books. I expect there's probably a lot of me in the protagonist, just because it's hard for me to separate myself, my opinions and feelings from my writing. Although I do try to write a little bit, make my characters different from me.
All right, well, Kenneth says, I just want to say how much I enjoyed the book. I've lived in and around Springfield for almost 50 years, and it was interesting to read about Myers Brothers, the theaters, churches, surrounding towns in that era. I'm a huge pinup tough girl fan, so this is right up my alley. I also went to school with Kathy Aschenbrenner, who is Twyla's daughter, and she is just as
Yes.
beautiful as her mother. Oh, Kathy, not Kenneth. Okay. Sorry, it said Kenneth.
I agree. I think Kathy's a very wonderful person and very pretty.
All right, well, if there aren't any more questions, I just wanted to say thank you very much again, Melinda, and thank you to everyone for joining us tonight. And we will have more Behind the Book series, and we hope you tune into those. Happy reading, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie, and thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you.